welcome to the stage the wonderful Maeve McCleane from Lidl, and she is going to be talking about the People Power brand from the inside out. Thank you, Maeve. Amazing. Thank you for being here and being the first.
I know, there's pros and cons to being the first.
Yeah.
You get it over with. You get it over with. But yeah, you're also, it's a bit nerve-wracking to be the first one up here. So, but I know you'll all be kind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's safe space, safe space. Brilliant. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit in terms of everything you guys are doing in Lidl and the reputation being a strategic focus for Lidl, because I know that employer brand and that reputation is a really strong focus at the moment.
It is. Reputation is really, really important to us for lots of reasons. Our reputation and the perception that others have of us is so important in attracting talent. Today, people are much more selective about the employer that they're going to go to, and people are going to look towards, and they're going to look up an employer, and they're going to look. An employer that has a stronger reputation is going to be more attractive to candidates who are looking to come into the business as well. Our reputation is important. I suppose reputation is good internally and externally. A company with a strong reputation performs better, and people want to work for an organisation that's doing really well. So if your organisation is performing better, the reputation matters there as well. So yeah, we've had a big focus on reputation. We work with an agency that we have a continuous listening tool that we're looking at our reputation throughout the year to see, and workplace is a key focus area of that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And that connection between people and the brand is a huge piece as well. You know, like you were saying, there's the external brand and there's the internal brand. You obviously want both of them to be working really well. So in terms of that people brand, you know, and the connection that they have then and how that then manifests into the external brand and how people are viewing the company, that's really important, isn't it?
It is. And I remember years ago when I started with Lidl, and we're 25 years in the country this year, and any of you who remember us back in the day, the brand was, I'm trying to remember, I actually think our slogan was seriously cheaper. And I remember looking at that going, it's like, I can't do an awful lot with that from an employer perspective. So trying to marry that brand. But as our brand as a company has evolved over the years, and I think it has, and we've established ourselves with probably a different brand in Ireland now, our employer brand has changed as well. And it is the people behind that. People, that connection to people is hugely important. It can't be just about the marketing campaign. It can't be just about the ads. It needs to be more than that, because your reputation is fed by people's perception. That perception is people telling stories, people sharing their experiences. That builds your brand as much as anything else, and then that impacts on your reputation too. And we've a large footprint. Like, we've 7,000 employees on the island now. That's a lot of people talking good about you or talking about you. So that's a real connection then, the people and the brand
we do love
as well.
talking shite in Ireland, let's face it. We do. So you want them talking good about you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that storytelling piece I think is really interesting as well, because we, especially in Ireland, we're such storytellers. We love to tell that story. So in terms of your employer brand, that has to be all about telling the story to your employees as well, and having that story in place so that you understand what you want the employees to feel, right?
Yeah. And we've had great fun with that over the last while as well. The brand becomes more real to people when there's real stories behind it. And it all ties it all ties in together, and it kind of snowballs. The more engaged people are, and the happier they are coming to work, and the more involved they are, the more they want to tell their stories and share their experience about working with us then as well. And the more they share those experiences, the impact that has then on potential candidates or other people within the organisation as well. So a key part for us is setting a realistic expectation. What is it like to work at Lidl? And we are different. We're not the same as working in any of the other retailers. It is a little bit different. But people telling that story, so I can tell the story, but it's so much more authentic when it comes from employees, from colleagues sharing their own stories. And colleagues do that, and they do it at different stages in their careers as well. You know, we have people who are relatively new into the organisation, and colleagues who will share their stories about what it was like at the beginning or their onboarding and so on, or colleagues who've been there, like myself, for 20 years plus, who are sharing their journey and how we've evolved and how we've grown. And that storytelling is so impactful, because you can always find someone you can relate more to, rather than something that's very false or crafted. You know, it's much more genuine. It's much more authentic, and you know, day in the life of that kind of approach to you know, putting ourselves forward and putting our brands forward, we have found has worked really, really well. And in that way as well, you're sharing your values, you're sharing your EVP, and it doesn't seem like it's contrived. It gives people more of a sense of, well, what, you know, when they say they've got these values, what does that actually mean? And what does that actually look like? And when you come to work every day, be it in a store or your picker in a warehouse or wherever you might be working. And the stories are really, really different as well, because there's so many different jobs in Lidl. You know, as you know, whether you're working in a store or whether you're in a warehouse or in an office, the stories are all very, very different as well.
And in terms of that EVP, when you were kind of working through that, was there a lot of collaboration and a lot of insights from the employees? Because you were talking about like the longevity, there's people there that have had careers there for a really long time. So when you were trying to kind of craft a new EVP and trying to look at that element of the employer brand, was there input from employees? What way did you kind of go about that?
There was. The other, and I don't know how many others here have that challenge as well. So we're part of a global organisation, and then and this happens a lot. You know, your vision is set from a distance, nearly. And I suppose the challenge we have then is maybe making that very real for our colleagues here in Ireland and in Northern Ireland, and how that works. And it is about engaging with people, having workshops with people. We relaunched or reinvigorated our EVP or our vision and our values last year. And again, it was a global exercise. And there's a bit of you sitting there going, it's like, well, if we sat down and just crafted ourselves, would it look or sound different? Yeah. But actually, and you may see this as well, those of you who might, you know, if you're going shopping abroad, if you ever go into a Lidl anywhere else, it looks the same too. Yeah. And similarly, because the ethos in the company, the way we work, the people that work with us, we've all kind of got that same DNA. So the values actually do transfer really, really well across jurisdictions from country to country. Yeah. And an exercise that we did last year then, when these new values, not evolved values, let's say, were being launched, we engaged all of our employees in what is their all colleagues and what does this mean for you? So making it real for, and I'm actually looking, Lydia's here with us today, and she headed up that project last year, where we brought all of the leadership together to say, okay, so if these are our values, what does this look like in our day-to-day, in our team? And we brought that down to every single team, sat down and puzzled out, what does belonging mean? What does it really mean in this team here? Yeah. We're in the store down in Kinsale, we're all working together, what does that actually mean? Yeah. So that was, that developing out the EVP, I suppose, and making it more than just about, this is a set of values, but it's the story. It's what does that look and feel like in real life.
Because you want it to be something that they're living. It's not something that they're just seeing and going, okay, these are our 4 values. We've never heard of these before. You want them to be feeling it and living it. Yeah. And I love to hear when you were going through that process, like the leadership teams are involved, the middle managers are involved, like every level was involved in that. Because I think a mistake that some companies are making is they make all of these decisions top level and they're not engaging properly with the people that are going to be living and breathing it, or the middle managers that are going to be giving it to their teams and you know, living that experience.
And there are decisions that will be made, and that happens, and particularly when you're working in a large multinational as well, decisions are made somewhere. They're not necessarily made in the office next door to you. Yeah. But then what you have to do is figure out, how do we make this really relevant for our colleagues, and how do we make this our story, and how do we make it Lidl Ireland's story?
Yeah. And I'm curious about, because you have so many employees that have been there for such a long time. So, and I think a lot of people, when you look at employer brand, they think about, okay, that's to attract the people in. And that is obviously a huge part of it. But then you also need to keep the people that are in the company a long time invested in what you're saying and what you're selling and what you're talking about. Has that been an area that you've had to kind of focus on, or?
It's kind of come naturally as well through, so our vision is first choice. So we want to be first choice for customers, first choice for stakeholders, for business partners and stakeholders, for our first choice for colleagues as well. And whether you work in Lidl a year or 20 years, that focus on the customer and making sure that Lidl is first choice for the customer. There's huge pride there in many of our colleagues who have worked there for 20 years or 25 years. So that sense of pride comes through as well, and it's to be first choice. even our values, to bring our values to life. How do we do that? Those who are there 25 years probably have the greatest stories about belonging, and the greatest stories about staying down to earth and being grounded. These are values that are really important to us, and there's a huge sense and pride in being able to pass that on. So nearly passing on the DNA that as well. So having structures in place around buddy programs or mentoring that people can share that experience as well. Keeping people engaged in that. We're really, really committed to developing people throughout their career. And one of the great things is that, a lot of us are multitasking teams. We do lots of different work. We do, I started in operations. I started in the store. I moved into HR. The opportunities that are there, that's another part of that EVP that we're offering people, is that there's more opportunities. CJ's here as well. We were just chatting this morning about how he started in IT. He's now in the HR team. So that is always possible, and the same whether it's moving from stores into warehouse or into office roles then as well.
Yeah, and that's so important that those career opportunities can be seen, and that it's not you're put in a box, like that there's so much room to grow and to change position and to stay within the company, but maybe in a different role.
It's a company that's changing as well. Retail is very dynamic, and it's changing all of the time. So it means even if you are within your role, you get to change and maybe work on different projects and get to evolve different skills, and that then can really get people to buy in for longer as well.
Yeah. I love to hear what mistakes have been made. Not particularly, we're not calling out any mistakes that Lidl have made. But I always think it's great to learn from. It's definitely the events that I've done or things that I've done. I've learned from the mistakes that have been made or people sharing their mistakes. Is there any kind of areas that you see, whether it's other brands or areas that were kind of big hurdles that you guys had to kind of get over that were big learning moments?
I remember probably, where are we now, 2025, probably about 12, 13 years ago. And we'd done quite a lot of work on employer brand here in Ireland, and maybe some of the other countries weren't as far ahead as what we had done. We had sat down, we'd really thought about our values, we'd thought about our EVP, and we'd put real great effort into that. And it was starting to come through then in our branding as well. And I was asked to join a team in our international office in Germany to see how do we upscale this and how do we get this out across other countries. And the mistake that we made there, the mistake that was made there was the belief that if you put up the right pictures and the right slogans and the right, if you copied everything that was being done in one place and you could bring it to another market, but if you hadn't done the background work and if there wasn't substance behind it, they were saying this is a great fun place to work, but actually it was complete control and command and everybody was being squished and squashed and nobody had autonomy or whatever. Or, there's great career opportunities here and this was all over your marketing. And then to come and say, well, actually there isn't great opportunities here. So it was nearly putting the cart before the horse. It was a mistake that we made. We learned from it and we have changed that approach, and I think that we've improved on that hugely, but that was definitely a mistake that we made at the time. And I think another mistake we made, and it's one that we need to get better at, is not measuring this. It's so important as well to find a way to measure the impact internally and externally, and especially internally, because I think having that substance internally, knowing that your employer brand is strong, that your colleagues believe in it, that it's real, that it is people's everyday life, then you can sell that outwardly. But measuring that, and we need to improve that and listening to that and gaining insights from that and then evolving and changing as you get those insights and using those people insights then to improve on what you're doing. So probably two areas and could have done better.
But I think the measurement one is one that it certainly comes up for me an awful lot with my clients in terms of how are we going to measure this. I think it is a difficult thing to measure because it's sentiment. It's how an employee is feeling and it's how the work you're doing is impacting them. So it's a tough thing to measure. But I think, like you say, as long as you're keeping it as a focus, you're listening, you're talking, those employee surveys, they still really work. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're not putting the results in a drawer. So it's so important to have those moments of listening and understanding and measuring, okay, how did this fall flat? Did this work out well? And being willing to learn from, what's going on around.
Absolutely. And I think as well, for us working, whether you're working in any people role, whether it's HR, culture, learning development, to come with that data and to be able to make the argument with, well, this is what we have learned, these are the insights that we've gleaned, and this is the action that we need to take. That makes the argument so much stronger than, well, I heard such a company is doing this, or I read an article on that. But putting the data behind it and the insights behind it to say, let's not just do the next trendy thing, let's not just do the next thing on the list, but let's do what people are asking of us. And then that will improve our brand then as well.
Yeah, because you need the buy-in. And that's the thing. A lot of people are probably going through this business case moment where they're like, this is really important. And the people that are living it and breathing it are in this room are probably all well aware of everything I've just said. And it's so important. But trying to get the leadership buy-in is a hard one sometimes, to try and get that data in front of them for them to understand why this is so important.
And it's particularly, I mean, most organisations are in tough positions now, and we hear it every week that, you know, there's companies that are looking that, you know, there's layoffs or there's less budgets there, and unfortunately the people budget is often the one that gets hit first. So then maybe it's about being more creative in how then, if you're talking about, you know, engaging people or building a sense of belonging, maybe getting more creative about it. And sometimes it doesn't have to be hugely expensive things that you do. I was absolutely blown away over the last couple of weeks from the engagement from our teams in raising funds for our charity partner, Family Carers Ireland. And there's spin-a-thons going on in stores. I don't know if anybody's been seen them in their stores, in the entrance pods of stores and behind the tills. The bonding that's going on, the team building that's going on, the crack that's being had. You talked to used to being a happy, you know, happy puppy at work. The crack that's been had, it's really, really good. They're not, and they're things people feel really involved. You bring them together. They feel like we're doing something for a good cause. It's a good purpose. So you don't have to spend a fortune on great employee experiences. Now it's nice to do really, you know, cool things too. But sometimes it can be much more simple things that bring people together. Sometimes it's a pizza evening.
I know, and that's the thing when you're, and I'll obviously be talking a lot about, you know, crafting that culture and creating experiences, but it's those small touch points, you know, and I know this session is meant to be about shaping reputation, but in terms of the other two pillars, in terms of creating experiences and crafting culture, is there areas that you guys have really kind of honed in on?
Yeah, and it does build reputation. It all feeds into it. It does.
You're dead right.
Most of our colleagues are customer facing, so that immediately has an impact on your reputation. You know, whether the different things that we've done. We have, over the last couple of years, we've looked at policies that are much more geared towards the entire life cycle. We've had good policies over the years, but in the last number of years to look at people at different phases in their lives then as well. So it's not just maybe about maternity leave, but it's also maybe about much earlier on when you're talking about fertility policy or an early pregnancy loss policy or my new favourite, the menopause policy. So you know, to look at a much wider and broader spectrum, and seeing that they're much more inclusive. That the policies are bringing everybody in under these policies, that people feel I can see that at some stage that will apply to me, or so we've done a lot around that employee experience. We focused a lot then on developing. I think that's a really, really key part of people's experience at work as well. Is, am I growing? Am I learning something new? Am I being challenged? And we have a leadership academy where we have brought hundreds of colleagues through developing their skills and preparing them. Maybe there's not the job there. There's not always the next promotion, but being promotion ready is a big focus for us now as well.
Amazing. I could listen to you all day and
I could
talk to you all day. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions and people will be jumping up to talk to you at the coffee break as well. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Maeve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.